The priestess, intuitive, keeper of the earth's secrets, gateway between the material and spiritual realms. Welcome to the Goddess Keys, where we merge fact and fiction to support us with crafting the world of our dreams through ensuring that we are the makers of our own destiny. And the way we do this is through learning about the coding of the simulation, deciding what our positionality is within that coding. If we don't like the story that we're living out, we rewrite it. Today we're going to discuss the priestess. A lot of people who might be attracted to this channel might be wearing the priestess archetype or have at some point worn the priestess archetype. The priestess is the seer, the intuitive, the one who's naturally gifted, who can naturally see into other realms outside of the third dimension. They can channel the energies of the earth, of the animals, of the elemental realms. But today what we're going to discuss is a little bit more of the shadow side of the priestess, because the code of the priestess tends to be based upon sacrifice. So one thing we need to know about the way the simulation works is that it is run on binary code. So black and white thinking, it's either true or false, it's either this or that. And when we think about the priestess's counterpart is the priest, because there's that masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine is also based upon binary code. The feminine would represent the negative, the masculine would represent the positive. And so when we think about the priestess archetype, there is a counterpart to the priestess, which is the priest. Now, if we were to look at this from a tarot standpoint, that archetype would be known as the Hierophant, whereas the priestess would be known as maybe the high priestess in the tarot deck. But here's the thing about the priestess always needs to make a sacrifice. Usually, if we think about where the power lies within the simulation, if we're thinking about spiritual parts of the simulation, it tends to be a little bit more structured around priesthoods. One real life example that we can see is the Vatican. When we think about the Vatican City, where the Pope resides, that land was originally the land of the priestess. The priestesses of Mami Wata. And there's actually a book, I'll put that on the screen. It's a good book to read. This author does a really great job of just describing the history of priestess lineages and how they've been kind of utilized as a form of sacrifice to build more robust Abrahamic religions. Okay, so if that's something you're interested in, then definitely check out that book. But in the book, they actually show the documentation of how where Vatican City is now, at one point, a priestess temple resided there. And so here we see a real life example of the priestess making a sacrifice on behalf of the priest or the high priest or the Hierophant. If we think about even a historical example of the Salem witch trials, and the witch would also be within that priestess archetype. So sometimes you hear about this concept of something called a witch wound, particularly feminine who are awakening into their spiritual gifts or abilities. They might notice that they have this witch wound, this feeling of being burned at the stake or having memories of being burned at the stake, whether that's literally or figuratively. Basically being punished for the gifts or the talents that they possess to see beyond the third dimension. And this is referred to as a witch wound. But I would actually say that that is just the coding of the priestess. The priestess is designed to sacrifice. So that's something you need to know. If you're going to identify with the priestess archetype, you are going to be dealing with themes of being sacrificed in the way you experience your world in the simulation. So you really want to sit down and think, is this an experience that you want to have? Do you want to constantly feel like you're being sacrificed for your gifts or for your ability to be intuitive or for your ability to connect with the earth? If that's not the experience you want, you probably want to rethink the priestess archetype. Now, how can you work on alchemizing the energy of the priestess? you would want to move into the energy more of the Hierophant and of the High Priest. If this is something you're interested in, I would check out the Genetic Path Cutter tier on Patreon. We're going more into what those energies are. I'm not really going to get into it on YouTube, but if this is something you're interested in alchemizing, then I would check out the content on Genetic Path Cutter for more information about that. So yeah, you want to merge the masculine, okay? Because the priestess is designed to have no defense mechanism. Like, the priestess is designed to be offered as a sacrifice. I'm going to give you a media example, a pretty fun media example known as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So she's made a couple of movies. She also had a show, and she was very campy. More so known back like in the 80s. She represents this priestess archetype, but she makes it really funny. So there are two movies that she starred in, one being Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and the other one being Elvira's, I think it's called Haunted Hills. But in both of these, number one, she is somebody who is a gifted witch or an intuitive. Also, she had like a TV pilot show. There's a TV pilot show where they also play on this concept of her being a witch. In each of these films or shows that she starred in, there is some kind of a storyline of her cultivating her magical abilities. In Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, she has a family member, I believe it's like a great aunt, who passes away. And when she collects the will or the inheritance, she learns that she's actually from a line of witches, and she's given a spell book. And during this movie, really funny movie by the way, she is being hunted down by this warlock, or kind of more of the priest energy. And basically he wants the gifts that she has. She wants the inheritance that she was given magically. And he basically tries to hunt her down. And there's even a scene where she's literally being hunted down like a witch. She's about to even be burned at the stake. The cool thing about the way this movie is portrayed, or the way Elvira's character is portrayed, is she never takes herself too seriously. She's always able to get out of these really life-threatening situations, a lot of times through humor and through seduction, but not really like sticking with the priestess archetype. It's an archetype that she wears, but she doesn't just remain the sacrifice, because she's able to go into her dark feminine as well, and transcend the archetype through humor. Another movie is Elvira's House of Haunted Hills, I believe, and she basically ends up time traveling, and she goes into this like area, kind of this Transylvania type area, and she ends up being hunted down in the movie by this like Vlad the Impaler type character who's literally trying to torture her to death. She's able to get out of that as well. But this is an example of somebody wearing the priestess archetype. So she's somebody who has been labeled as a witch. She looks a little different. She doesn't go by the same rules that a lot of the people or the characters around her go by. She's visibly, noticeably different. She visibly, noticeably looks like she's tapped into kind of more of the occult, kind of more of the spiritual realm. She's also very much in her sexuality and in her feminine. She is hunted down for these gifts, but she's also able to get out of a lot of these same situations through tapping into her femininity, and more so her humor, not taking it too seriously. A more comical way that the priestess can manifest, she still has to go through being sacrificed, or at least people attempting to sacrifice her. Like, just because you wear the priestess archetype, it doesn't mean that you are going to be sacrificed, but you're going to find that kind of narrative playing out in your world quite often. So you would want to tap into the energy more of the priest, the high priest, the hierophant, to kind of alchemize those sorts of energies. So if you're interested in learning more about how to make archetype shifts, like learning more about the science of archetypes, you can find this a lot in your birth chart. I am offering a Beyond the Birth Chart reading, where we basically look at the different avatars that you might have been wearing in the simulation. If you're feeling like you're trying to make a change, but it feels like you're stuck in a particular role, and you're trying to make sense of why this is and how to alchemize this, then I highly suggest the Beyond the Birth Chart reading to learn more about that. Stay tuned. Beyond the Birth Chart is turning into a book, and that is going to be released quite soon. So if you're interested in learning more about this concept of deprogramming astrology, Beyond the Birth Chart will be available for you to purchase very, very soon. And if you're interested in taking a quest with me, really tapping into the energies of shifting your avatar within the simulation through a process that I am calling technomancy, we go from being non-playing characters in the simulation to alchemizing our experience through learning the code of the simulation and then transcending and transmuting the code of the simulation. Then consider taking a 1 month, 3 month, or 12-month quest with me, whether that is at the Alchemist or the World Builder or the Game Maker. And I'm gonna leave my information down below to set up a discovery call. We can chat, see if we're a good fit. Stay tuned for more chats as it relates to archetypes. Also check out my Deprogramming Astrology playlist on YouTube, because if you're interested in archetypes, I'd highly suggest you going into the deprogramming astrology content simultaneously, because there is a weaving that's happening between archetypes as well as the birth chart. And this is something that I'm sharing in the book that will be published very soon. Sending you lots of love, joy, and peace until we meet again.